Alright, my friends, welcome back to All Cars. I am John. It is time for another Motorweek retro review reaction. And this week, the 1993 Saturn SW2. Now, that nomenclature says that is a station wagon, and the 2 indicates it's the higher trim line with the more powerful engine. And, as always, grab that beverage of choice, sit back in your comfy chair. Let's take that trip down memory lane, but before we get to it, if you're relatively new to the channel, I feel like I need to be honest about this up front. I'm a huge Saturn fan. I worked for them for about a year selling cars. I actually was sent to Spring Hill, to the factory, to the headquarters, went through about a week-long training, and I am fully indoctrinated in Saturn. And I believed in everything about them, their quality, their processes, their labor relations, everything. So let's jump into this. I will not pretend this is not going to be more than a little biased, but let's jump into it.
Motorweek is made possible by TireRack.com and State Farm.
These are tough times for car makers, and it doesn't matter whether a company is American, Japanese, or German. Every manufacturer is feeling the economic pinch. Every manufacturer but one. The newest General Motors division, Saturn, is selling everything it builds. The reasons are simple: high quality, low prices, and sensible designs. The latest car to come from Saturn is the new Saturn station wagon. It offers the same attractions as its 2- and 4-door relatives. It also introduces a few new features designed to keep Saturn at the head of the small car pack.
So before they, missed that one, didn't I? Let's go back just a minute. Before they go on, let's talk about the styling. I'm sure they'll show more of the car later, and I'll talk more about it. But I love it. So, 93, they eventually restyled the car, and everything became a little more rounded. Looked cleaner, but the first one just looks kind of distinctive to me. Not super upscale. It's not competing with, Audi and things like that. It's competing against the Honda Civic and the Toyota Corolla. And I think it's far better looking than those. I really do. I love just the overall styling of it. You do once in a while hear people say, oh, it just looks like an Oldsmobile. And they were pretty close, actually. If you know the history, I did a whole history of Saturn, but if you look at some of the earliest prototypes for Saturn, it was actually sent back to the drawing board. The management kicked it out because it looked like a baby Oldsmobile, literally. So this is the later iteration of trying to make it more distinctive. And there was talk, I don't know how serious it got, about merging Saturn with Oldsmobile later, but overall, I think it's a great looking car. See what they say.
Trying to keep Saturn at the head of the small car pack. The new Saturn wagon is yet another step forward for GM's most progressive division. It's built on the same 102.4-inch wheelbase as its 4-door sibling, and our 1993 SW2 grade test car also wears the top sedan's new front end. It's a smoother, more aggressive look than found on 92 models. The modified nose features a deep Ford probe-like chin spoiler and optional fog lamps. The handsome Oldsmobile-derived headlight treatment remains unchanged. But as you move around the SW2, you see the real differences. The wagon's cargo area joins smoothly with the sedan styling. Clearly, this wagon was part of the original Saturn styling concept and not an afterthought.
Son of a gun. I missed it again. All right, let's go back. Wagon styling. I got mixed feelings about this. Back then, I didn't like small wagons, and I did a reaction video to the Mercury Tracer wagon, as I recall, and more rounded, more suppository looking. And I don't love the idea back then of wagons, and I think the very rear, from the rear, I think this is a little awkward. The taillights look a little small. But really, it's the sedan with a backpack. It wasn't until I got older that I looked back on the Saturn wagon and really appreciated how great it really was, because you get the benefits of a sedan, with the extra cargo capacity in a tidy little small package, it's perfect for active individuals who need a place to put things, or small families. You can put your kids behind here. You've got plenty of room to carry stuff. I came to love the small wagons, and it's so sad to me to see this and see the other ones, and we've all forgotten about them. They're gone and replaced with small sport utilities that are not as efficient, not as space efficient, not as fuel efficient, can't carry as much cargo, but, hey, they ride higher. I think this is really good looking. I really do. I just personally, at the back, from the rear, it's a little squared off, and I think some of the proportions are just a little odd.
And not an afterthought. All body panels peculiar to the wagon are plastic, including the roof. The flush-fitting hatch lifts easily out of the way, and the extremely low liftover makes loading simple. The cargo area holds 28.8 cubic feet of luggage. Fold the split rear seat, and it increases to 56.3, reasonable space for a compact wagon. Up front, the wagon's only steel body panel, the hood lifts to reveal Saturn's twin-cam 124 horsepower, 1.9-liter four-cylinder engine. This 16-valve power plant produces 122 pound-feet of torque to help move cargo along. SW1 grade cars get a less powerful 85 horsepower engine.
Yeah, and solid engine. It's always bothered me. It was 1.9 liters. I always pick 1.8 or 2, but 1.9, it's an odd number. I don't like it. The upgraded engine, being twin cam, making that 124, 125 horsepower, whatever it was substantially more powerful than the single cam version, which at this time made 84. Now, with later redesigns, that engine was boosted to, I believe, an even 100, if I remember, and it was perfectly adequate. Nothing exciting, but perfectly adequate. One of the complaints, and if you go back and you read some of the earliest reviews of Saturns, any of them, I think it was Car and Driver, they were like, look, the designers obviously can see because the car looks great. They can obviously feel because it handles great, but they can't hear because it was gritty sounding. I don't think that the interior was really any noisier than the Corolla or the Civic and things like that, but it was the quality of the sound coming from the engine compartment. And part of that, a big part of that, was this used a real timing chain, not a timing belt. And it's a huge selling point to people like me.
The engine in our test car is connected to a revised 4-speed automatic transmission. Saturn claims that its innovative computer software is more efficient, reducing dreaded gear hunting, especially when climbing hills. Our staff, however, felt little difference in everyday driving, but were quite satisfied with the transmission's overall performance. And impressed when they called upon the new traction control system. It even has an on-off switch. All automatic equipped Saturns with ABS feature this system, the most affordable one currently available. The whole drivetrain together produced very satisfactory performance at our test track, pulling the car from 0 to 60 in 9.6 seconds. The quarter mile took 17.4 seconds at 81 miles per hour. The engine exhibited a broad spread of power, and transmission gearing was spot on, using every bit of it. There was some engine buzz, but only at high RPM. Saturn's efforts to reduce engine noise are succeeding. The EPA rates this powertrain's fuel consumption at 24 city, 33 highway. We got 29 miles per gallon on our mixed test loop.
So overall, solid numbers. It accelerated well enough. It's trap time fine enough. Gas mileage, I don't know. I'd have to go back and double check. I'd be willing to bet the Corolla and the Civic do a little bit better than that. Just a gut feeling there. Not bad at all. Not bad enough to turn you off of the car. But I suspect the Civic especially might do a little bit better than that. And the way they present the information, I think they're more impressed than they're really letting on. I think Motorweek tends to try to be as neutral as possible. It really stands out when they criticize a car. But this, the broad power band, the shifting of the transmission and everything. Doesn't that feel like they are really impressed and just trying to tamp it down a little bit? This was a really well put together car, proof that America could do it, that General Motors, if they left people alone to do the right thing, could do it as well. And really, just a really well thought out car, I think. Cohesive, right? A cohesive car. Not, well, and it was a new platform, new engine, new transmission, new factory, new labor agreement, new management, everything. And so this wasn't a global company saying, well, here's a platform, let's stick this old engine in it, right? It wasn't that. This was cohesively designed, and I think it shows.
A low interior noise level of 66 decibels. The SL2 sedan impressed us last year with its fine handling, and the SW2 wagon continues in that vein. Gentle front plow gives way to smooth, gradual oversteer, and the fully independent suspension features new strut valving to reduce body roll. Emergency maneuvers are no problem, thanks to the firmly planted tail and positive steering feedback. Our car's low-cost GM ABS6 system replaces the standard rear drums with disc all around. This stopped our Saturn wagon from 60 and an average distance of 120 feet. While not as smooth as more expensive systems and exhibiting slight fade, it provides the surefire bad weather stopping ability that every family car needs.
Really impressive. Again, through the slalom there, no drama, right? And again, I feel like they're impressed and just trying to keep it a little more neutral because it is just a inexpensive family car, right? But no drama there whatsoever. Moving through, it just went about its business, not an excessive amount of roll. And there was one moment I thought that tail end came out a little far, but planted and very nice. Braking results, fantastic. You can't ask for more. And I'm not a fan of these General Motors ABS systems. I understand why they used it. They don't no need to go develop a brand new one if you can just pick one up off the shelf, as it were. But I wasn't really impressed with them earlier. They didn't do a great job and pulsed badly. Very cheap in its implementation. But here, absolutely does its job. 120 feet from 60, extremely well, and then no drama at all. No lockup, no pulling, no nothing. Just stopped safely. Really fantastic result. Really impressive.
A family car also needs room, and the Saturn wagon's front seat has that in abundance. It's a very spacious area for a compact car. Saturn dashboards have received new plastic for '93. The deeper color gives the multi-piece dash a more cohesive look. All Saturns now feature a driver's side airbag as standard equipment, but its addition meant moving the cruise controls to the side of the steering wheel. The new pod is hard to see and feels cheaper than other controls. The revised gauge layout, however, is clear and sensible, although we miss the oil pressure gauge. All Saturns get more attractive seat fabrics for '93. These cover a set of firm, supportive buckets. Controls for the optional cassette stereo and ventilation system are straightforward and easy to reach, but a quieter fan would be nice. The rear seat offers plenty of headroom, though legroom is a little tight for tall folks. The standard 60-40 split seat offers extra luggage flexibility.
Before they move on, nice interior. I like this interior. I don't love it. I love the gauges. I think they're super clear. I think they're absolutely right about the cruise control, having to put it behind the wheel like that. It was well, we've got to put it somewhere. Let's just stick it back there. I think there's more elegant ways it could have been done. Certainly not looking so like something you picked up from Crutchfield, right? And overall, the middle part, I love it. Big vents, everything laid out very logically right there. The radio's a little busy to me. I guess I would say that the mid-90s Chrysler radios made the most sense to me. Big buttons, big knobs. These look a little dainty to me, but not nearly as complex as what you'll see in some other cars. And I like the HVAC controls. not all knobs, right? Like you would see in Jettas or in maybe certain Civics, for example. Not all knobs, Euro-style knobs, but having the sliders to change where the air is going, to change the temperature, and then real simple control for the fan speed. I don't think they ever offered on the SL any kind of automatic temperature control, which would be nice, honestly. But if the biggest complaint they could come up with was that the fan for the HVAC was a little loud, solid interior. Now, I said I don't like it that much because I do think it's very busy in terms of all the plastic cuts. They said that they went to a higher grade plastic this year. News to me. But there's a joint right there below the instrument cluster. Then there's the joints around the where the HVAC and the radio go, and then there's more joints. Lots of opportunities for getting the installation wrong and for squeaks to develop. They simplified it later and went with something that was much more, I want to say much more cohesive. This just a little cut up, in my opinion.
Saturn SW1 wagon prices start at $10,895. The Saturn SW2 begins at $12,945. Our loaded test car carried a price of $15,625. By comparison, a comparable Ford Escort wagon will cost you less. The Ford has more cargo space than the Saturn, but it doesn't handle as well or accelerate as quickly, and also doesn't offer ABS or traction control. Its available features like ABS and traction control that lead our list of hits. We also like the handsome styling, well-designed interior, sharp handling, and strong acceleration. Misses are the cheap-feeling cruise control switches, noisy ventilation fan, and snug rear leg room.
Hold on. Let's re-emphasize this right here. You think about all the cars they've reviewed and all the misses they've talked about, and what they came up with here was a cruise control switch and a noisy fan for the HVAC. The legroom, I take a little bit of issue with that. It is a small car. I'd like to see what they said about the legroom on that Ford Escort wagon they just talked about. But when they showed that guy in the back seat, didn't look that tight. Maybe he just wasn't one of the taller people. But this is all they came up with. This is solid, guys.
But these are all just details. Overall, the Saturn wagon is as good as or better than any other compact car available, especially with advanced features like traction control and ABS, an area where General Motors now leads the industry. And Saturn leads General Motors, while other GM divisions and their foreign competition are fighting to meet sales targets. Saturn dealers are seeing sales well beyond their expectations. Quite an accomplishment, especially in today's depressed economy, and proof that, thanks to Saturn, America is pulling ahead in the small car race.
A lot to unpack there. First off, GM is leading in traction control and ABS. Good to hear something positive about what GM was doing at the time. I do think that in all of the negativity and everything that went wrong with GM, it's easy to forget they did a lot of things, solidly right. Then to say Saturn is leading GM, that just makes this whole thing sad to me. That instead of investing in what was their best brand, not the best seller, Chevy sold tons more, but their best brand, they said, it matched or exceeded the imports. This was a home run. It really was. And instead of investing in another factory, a larger platform, other things, they just kind of let it languish until eventually the penny pinching got to them. And they just started saying, okay, well, here, we're going to build this at this factory and we're going to label it a Saturn. Congratulations. Congratulations on your increased sales of things that are going to fall apart. It wasn't overnight. It kind of degraded, but it is one of the greatest sadnesses of in the automotive world of my life. I truly, truly adored this brand, and that was a shockingly positive, down-tuned but positive review. Love to see a head-to-head, with a Civic and a Corolla and maybe that Escort, or maybe even a Sentra. That would be kind of exciting too. But I'll leave you with one more thing. And I looked this up some time ago. I couldn't re-verify this. But when I was at Spring Hill going through my training sessions, we had the guy come in who I believe was the director of the Saturn racing team. And remember, Saturn had a 4-door sedan, a 2-door coupe, and the wagon. And he came in, he was like, what do y'all think we race? And we're all like, the sports coupe, right? Because it's lighter. And he said, no, it was the wagon, because it had better weight distribution than the other two cars. I actually looked it up, and all I ever found was them using like sports coupes. So I can't verify that and prove it to you, but I remember clear as day being told that. So this thing we just saw, at least at one point, apparently the Saturn racing team was using it. Thanks for being here, guys. Let me know your thoughts and your memories below.